The desperate call the crystal spires of Zarian 7 caught the light of 3 suns, casting rainbow patterns across the peaceful mining colony below. Kaya Nethva stood in her administrative tower, watching the daily operations with the quiet satisfaction of a leader whose people had known only prosperity and peace. The Zephyrians had built their civilization on harmony, both with nature and with the 100 other species that made up the galactic unity, for 800 years. The unity had maintained perfect peace across 12 star systems. Wars were ancient history, studied only by scholars interested in primitive civilizations. The most advanced military technology in Unity space was designed for asteroid mining and space rescue operations. Even their so-called defense fleet was really just a collection of exploration vessels with basic shields. Kaya's peaceful morning shattered when her communications officer, Jenth, burst into her office with terror in his large, silver eyes. Administrator Nechevar, we have a situation. Long-range sensors are detecting massive objects entering our outer system. She followed Jenth to the communication center, where displays showed sensor readings that made no sense. Dozens of enormous signatures were moving through space at impossible speeds, heading directly for their system's inhabited worlds. Could they be Unity ships? Kaya asked, though she already knew the answer. No Unity vessel had ever registered energy signatures like these. Negative, Administrator. These objects are unlike anything in our databases. They appear to be organic in nature, but with technological components integrated throughout their structures. The main display activated, showing a grainy image from their most distant sensor platform. What Kaya saw made her blood run cold. Massive creatures moved through space like living ships, their biomechanical bodies stretching for kilometers. Strange appendages writhed from their hulls, reaching out to grab chunks of asteroids and space debris, which they consumed and incorporated into their growing mass. Send an immediate message to Unity Defense Command, Kaya ordered. Request emergency assistance from any available vessels. Commander Vex Koran received the distress call while his exploration cruiser was conducting peaceful surveys near the Andorian Nebula. The Valkorian officer had served in the Unity Defense Force for 30 years without ever firing a weapon in anger. Like most Unity military personnel, he considered himself more of a scientist and diplomat than a warrior. Commander, his tactical officer reported, we're receiving emergency transmissions from multiple systems. The Zarian system, the Helios colonies, and the Centauri research stations are all reporting attacks by unknown hostile. Forces Dex studied the incoming data with growing horror. The attacking creatures, which survivors were calling the Void Swarm, moved from system to system like a plague. They consumed entire planets, breaking down matter at the molecular level and using it to create more of their kind. Worse, they seemed to be learning and adapting with each attack, growing stronger and more organized. Set course for the Zarian system, maximum speed, Dex commanded. Send word to all available Unity forces to converge on our position. As his ship and the hastily assembled Unity fleet approached Zarian 7, the scope of the disaster became clear. 2 of the system's 3 inhabited worlds had already been completely consumed, leaving behind only hollow shells of rock and metal. The Void Swarm creatures had grown enormous, some now the size of small moons, their biomechanical bodies pulsing with stolen energy. All ships maintain defensive formation, Dex broadcasted to his fleet. Attempt to establish communication with the hostile forces. The Unity ships, elegant vessels designed for exploration and peaceful contact, tried every known form of communication. Mathematical sequences, Musical patterns, pictographs, even simple radio waves. The Void Swarm's response was swift and terrifying. Massive bioenergy beams lanced out from the creature ships, striking the Unity vessels with overwhelming force. Dex watched in horror as ship after ship was destroyed or disabled. Their defensive shields, designed to protect against space debris and cosmic radiation, offered no protection against weapons that seemed to violate known physics. The creatures adapted to every tactic the Unity forces tried, growing stronger with each failed attack. All ships, retreat to safe distance, Dex ordered, his voice heavy with defeat. Prepare emergency evacuation protocols for remaining civilian populations. On Zarian 7, Administrator Kaya received the devastating news that the Unity Defense Force had been routed. The Void Swarm was now moving toward her world, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop them. In desperation, she accessed the Unity's most classified databases, searching for any information about advanced weapons or military technology. What she found instead changed everything. Deep in the restricted archives, she discovered files marked with warnings in dozens of languages. The quarantine protocols established centuries ago by the Unity's founding members. A list of worlds and species considered too dangerous for peaceful contact. Most of the entries described worlds with extreme environmental conditions or species with violent tendencies. But one entry stood out, marked with the highest possible threat classification, Spec 3, home to a species called Homo sapiens. The file was extensive, filled with disturbing reports of a species that had weaponized everything from sharp rocks to antimatter. Inhabitants demonstrate unprecedented capacity for warfare and technological innovation under pressure, the file read. Species has survived multiple extinction-level events through adaptation and violence. Recommend absolute quarantine. Under no circumstances should this species be contacted or provided with advanced technology. But, buried in the technical specifications, Kaya found something else. Emergency contact protocols, established centuries ago by Unity founders who had foreseen the possibility that their peaceful civilization might someday face a threat it couldn't handle. Diplomatically, with the Void Swarm now entering Zarian 7's atmosphere, Kaya made a decision that violated every principle of Unity civilization. She activated the emergency contact beacon and sent humanity's first official message from the Galactic Unity. Asterisk. This is Administrator Kaya Nethva of Zarian 7, speaking for the Galactic Unity Emergency Council. Unknown hostile forces are consuming entire worlds throughout our space. Our defensive capabilities have proven completely ineffective. We formally request military assistance against an extinction-level threat. In exchange, we offer full Unity membership, access to our technology, and territorial rights for your species. The message traveled across space at faster-than-light speeds, reaching Earth's solar system within hours. On Lunar Station, orbiting humanity's cradle world, Admiral Marcus Harrison received the transmission that would change the course of galactic history. Harrison was a veteran of humanity's last major conflict, the colonial rebellion 20 years earlier. He had spent his career preparing for wars that never came, maintaining a military force that most humans considered unnecessary in their isolated corner of space. Earth's defensive perimeter had kept them hidden from galactic civilization, allowing them to develop their technology and military doctrine without outside interference. Admiral, his communications officer, reported, "We're receiving a first contact transmission through channels we didn't know existed. The message is ... disturbing. Harrison listened to the alien's desperate plea with the calm expression of a man who had spent 30 years preparing for exactly this scenario. While the galactic unity had enjoyed centuries of peace, humanity had spent that same time refining the art of warfare to a terrifying degree. Activate Emergency Protocol 7, Harrison commanded. Full fleet mobilization. Combat readiness, Level 1. I want every ship in the Terran Defense Fleet ready for deployment within 48 hours. Across the Sol system, massive shipyards that had been dormant for decades roared to life. Automated systems began assembling vessels from components that had been manufactured but never used. In underground facilities on Earth, Mars, and Europa, human warriors who had trained their entire lives for a war that might never come received their activation orders. Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's leading xenobiologist, joined Admiral Harrison's staff as they prepared for humanity's first contact with galactic civilization. She studied the transmitted data about the Void Swarm with fascination and horror. Admiral, these creatures are unlike anything in our theoretical models. They appear to be a hybrid of organic life and artificial intelligence, capable of rapid adaptation and evolution. The Unity forces they defeated were using energy weapons and defensive tactics that our military doctrine would consider primitive. Harrison nodded grimly. Doctor, the Unity made the same mistake that many civilizations have made throughout history. They assumed that intelligence and technology could replace the warrior spirit. They forgot that sometimes peace is only possible when good people are prepared to do violence on behalf of those who can't protect themselves. Within 48 hours, the largest human military fleet in history was assembled at the edge of Sol system. 57 warships, ranging from fast attack cruisers to massive dreadnought battleships. Each one designed with a single purpose: the complete destruction of enemy forces at the fleet's center. The massive dreadnought Indomitable served as Admiral Harrison's flagship. The ship was a monument to human military engineering, bristling with weapons that violated several galactic treaties that Earth had never signed. Its hull was scarred from decades of combat exercises, giving it the appearance of a predator that had survived countless battles. All ships report, ready for hyperspace transit, the fleet coordinator announced. Admiral Harrison stood on his bridge, looking out at the fleet that represented humanity's first step onto the galactic stage. These ships had been built during humanity's darkest period, when nuclear war and environmental collapse had nearly destroyed their species. The lessons learned from those near extinctions had shaped every aspect of human military doctrine. Commence hyperspace jump. Destination: Zarian system. All ships maintain battle formation upon arrival. The human fleet disappeared from Sol system in a burst of twisted spacetime, carrying with it the hopes of a desperate galactic civilization and the fury of a species that had earned its classification as the most dangerous world in known space. On Zarian 7, Administrator Kaya watched the Void Swarm creatures descend toward her world's surface. She had no way of knowing if her message had reached the quarantined deathworlders, or if they would even care about the fate of species that had deliberately isolated them for centuries. As the alien creatures began consuming her world's crystal forests, she could only hope that somewhere in the darkness of space, humanity was coming. When deathworlders answer the human fleet materialized at the edge of the Zarian system like a pack of predators emerging from hyperspace. 57 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, their angular hulls a stark contrast to the elegant curves of Unity architecture, where Unity ships were built for beauty and efficiency. Human vessels were designed with only one consideration: the complete annihilation of anything that threatened them. Admiral Harrison stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, studying tactical displays that showed the full scope of the disaster. 3 void swarm creatures, each now the size of a large asteroid, were systematically consuming Zarian 7. Their biomechanical bodies pulsed with stolen energy as they stripped the planet down to its core. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting massive organic signatures throughout the system. These creatures have consumed approximately 80% of the local planetary mass and incorporated it into their own structures." Harrison examined the sensor data with the calm focus of a predator evaluating its prey. The void swarm creatures were indeed impressive, but they had made one crucial mistake. They had never faced an opponent that had spent centuries perfecting the art of killing things that seemed unkillable. Dr. Vasquez, analysis of the hostile creatures. The xenobiologist studied her readings with scientific fascination mixed with revulsion. "Admiral, they're extraordinary. Biomechanical hybrids that can adapt their cellular structure in real time to resist specific threats. They learn from each attack and modify their defenses accordingly. However, their adaptation process appears to require several minutes to complete major structural changes. Exploitable. Definitely. Their strength is also their weakness. They're so focused on adapting to resist the last attack that they become vulnerable to completely different approaches." Harrison smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Exactly what I wanted to hear. Commander Torres, signal the fleet. We're implementing Tactical Doctrine Omega." Tactical Doctrine Omega was humanity's answer to adaptive enemies. Rather than relying on a single weapons system or approach, human ships were designed to engage targets using multiple, contradictory methods simultaneously. When one weapon was neutralized, 3 others would already be striking from different vectors using entirely different principles. All ships target the largest creature first. Staggered attack pattern, full spectrum engagement. The human fleet spread out into a complex 3-dimensional formation that would have been impossible for Unity forces to coordinate. Each ship moved independently while maintaining perfect tactical coordination, like a school of metallic fish preparing to devour a much larger predator. The lead void swarm creature detected the approaching human fleet and began adapting its biomechanical hull to resist energy weapons. Based on its previous encounters with Unity forces, thick, reflective plating grew across its surface, while energy-absorbing organs positioned themselves to channel incoming fire into its power systems. Was completely unprepared for humanity's opening move. "Fire kinetic penetrators." Harrison commanded. 12 human cruisers simultaneously launched solid tungsten rods accelerated to nearly light speed. The void creature's biomechanical hull, optimized to resist energy weapons, proved completely inadequate against simple pieces of metal moving at relativistic velocities. The penetrators punched through its adaptive armor like bullets through paper, creating massive wounds that leaked biomechanical fluids into space before the creature could adapt to kinetic threats. The second wave of human ships opened fire with plasma cannons, nuclear missiles, and exotic matter disruptors. Each weapon system operated on completely different principles, making unified adaptation impossible. Target is showing structural damage across multiple sections, the tactical officer reported. However, it's beginning to adapt to our weapons signatures. Phase 2, Harrison ordered. All ships switched to secondary weapon systems. This was the true genius of human military doctrine. While the void creature desperately tried to adapt its hull to resist kinetic penetrators, the human ships switched to energy weapons. When it began developing energy resistance, they switched to chemical explosives. When it adapted to explosives, they used gravitational manipulation devices, the creature's biomechanical systems, designed for gradual adaptation to consistent threats, couldn't keep up with humanity's constant tactical evolution. Within minutes, the massive organism was critically damaged. Its adaptive capabilities overwhelmed by the sheer variety of attacks. Admiral Dr. Vasquez called out excitedly. The creature is attempting to retreat. Its biomechanical systems are prioritizing self-preservation over continued feeding. Negative. No survivors, no escape. Harrison's voice was cold as vacuum. This is an extinction threat to galactic civilization. We end it here. The human fleet pursued the wounded void creature with ruthless efficiency. When it tried to flee into hyperspace, human interdiction fields trapped it in normal space. When it attempted to camouflage itself among asteroid debris, human sensors tracked its unique biomechanical signature. When it tried to regenerate its wounds, human boarding pods delivered assault teams directly into its internal organs. Commander Sarah Chen led the boarding action aboard the creature's biomechanical interior. Her assault team, equipped with powered armor and weapons designed for close-quarters combat, fought their way through living corridors that tried to digest them. The creature's internal defenses, adapted for space combat, were completely unprepared for armored humans with flamethrowers and molecular disruptors. Admiral, we've located what appears to be the creature's central nervous system, Chen reported as her team blasted through organic barriers that sealed themselves behind them. It's a hybrid biocomputer network, incorporating absorbed technology from dozens of different species. Can you disable it? Sir, we can do better than that. We can reprogram it. Harrison raised an eyebrow. Explain. The creature's neural network includes communication systems from every species it's absorbed. If we can access those systems, we might be able to locate other void swarm creatures throughout the galaxy, within hours. Human technicians had done something that no Unity species had even attempted. They had hacked the biomechanical nervous system of a void swarm creature and extracted detailed information about the entire swarm's locations, capabilities, and weaknesses. Admiral, the intelligence officer reported, we now have complete tactical data on 17 other void swarm creatures operating throughout Unity space. They're not independent organisms. They're all part of a larger collective intelligence that shares information instantaneously across interstellar distances. Harrison studied the data with grim satisfaction, which means they now know exactly what happened here. As if summoned by his words, long-range sensors detected massive hyperspace signatures throughout the Zarian system. The remaining void swarm creatures were converging on human positions, abandoning their attacks on other worlds to deal with this new threat. All ships, prepare for fleet engagement, Harrison commanded. Signal Earth Command. Request immediate deployment of the Titan-class vessels. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her xenobiological analysis with concern. Admiral, there are 16 creatures approaching, several of them larger than anything we've encountered. Are you sure our current forces are sufficient? Harrison's smile was predatory. Doctor, these creatures just made their second mistake. Their first mistake was threatening peaceful civilizations that couldn't fight back. Their second mistake was giving humanity a target-rich environment. The approaching void swarm creatures had learned from their collective's defeat. Their biomechanical hulls now incorporated adaptive defenses against kinetic weapons, energy weapons, and exotic matter disruptors. They had evolved specifically to counter human tactics. They had not, however, evolved to counter human strategic thinking. All ships implement Doctrine Prometheus, Harrison ordered. Doctrine Prometheus was humanity's most controversial military strategy, considered by many Earth philosophers to be morally questionable even against non-sentient threats. It involved the deliberate sacrifice of military units to achieve overwhelming strategic advantage. 3 human cruisers broke formation and charged directly at the approaching void creatures, their hulls loaded with every nuclear weapon in their arsenals. The creatures, recognizing the threat, focused their bioenergy weapons on the approaching ships, destroying them before they could reach attack range. The nuclear explosions that followed were merely a distraction. While the void creatures were focused on the obvious threat, the remaining human ships had repositioned themselves throughout the system. When the creatures moved to attack the human fleet's apparent position, they found empty space. The real attack came from completely unexpected directions. Fire Helios weapons, Harrison commanded. The Helios system was humanity's answer to opponents too large for conventional weapons. Rather than trying to destroy massive targets directly, Helios weapons destabilized the nuclear fusion processes within stars themselves, creating localized stellar flares that could sterilize entire solar systems. The Xerian system's primary star, carefully manipulated by human gravitational technology, erupted in a directed solar flare that engulfed the approaching void creatures. The biomechanical organisms, for all their adaptability, had no defense against the raw nuclear fury of a weaponized star. When the stellar radiation cleared, 16 void swarm creatures had been reduced to expanding clouds of organic debris. The threat to Unity civilization had been eliminated in a single engagement that lasted less than 4 hours. On the surface of what remained of Administrator Kaya and the few thousand surviving Zephyrians emerged from their emergency shelters to find human ships in orbit and human soldiers establishing perimeter defenses around the evacuation sites. Commander Chen, still wearing her powered armor from the boarding action, met with the Zephyrian administrator in the ruins of the Crystal City. The contrast between the two beings was stark. Kaya was tall and elegant, her crystalline features reflecting the light of 3 suns. Chen was compact and scarred, her armor bearing the marks of recent combat. Administrator. Nachivar. I'm Commander Chun of the Terran Defense. Fleet Admiral Harrison sends his regards and his assurance that the immediate threat has been neutralized. Kaya looked at the human warrior with a mixture of gratitude and terror. Commander, we cannot adequately express our appreciation for your intervention. Without human assistance, our entire civilization would have been consumed. Chen's expression remained neutral. Administrator, you should understand that our assistance comes with certain expectations. Humanity has just revealed military capabilities that we've kept hidden for centuries. Every species in the Unity now knows exactly what Earth is capable of. We understand, and we will honor our offer of Unity membership for humanity. That's not what concerns us, Chen replied. We're concerned about what happens next. These void creatures were scouts for something larger. Our xenobiological analysis suggests they were preparing this galaxy for colonization by an even more dangerous species. Kaya felt her crystal body grow cold. more dangerous than the Void Swarm. Administrator, the Void Swarm was just the cleanup crew. They were sent to eliminate any potential resistance before the real invasion begins. Admiral Harrison arrived on Zarian 7, aboard a transport shuttle, accompanied by Dr. Vasquez and a team of human diplomats who looked distinctly uncomfortable in their formal attire. The meeting between human and Unity leadership took place in a hastily erected shelter, surrounded by the devastation of a consumed world. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of various classifications, Harrison began, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to making life and death decisions. Humanity accepts the Unity's offer of membership, with certain conditions. Commander Vex, representing what remained of Unity military leadership, leaned forward with concern. What conditions, Admiral? First, humanity will assume primary responsibility for Unity defense against external threats. Your species excel at exploration, research, and diplomacy. Our species excels at violence. This arrangement benefits everyone. And second, Harrison's expression became deadly serious. Second, every Unity world will immediately begin construction of human-designed defensive installations. The Void Swarm was advance reconnaissance. Something worse is coming, and when it arrives, we need to be ready. Dr. Vasquez activated a holographic display showing their analysis of captured Void Swarm technology. The biomechanical organisms contained references to their creators, a species they call the prime consumers. Based on the data we've extracted, the prime consumers have been systematically consuming galaxies for millions of years. How long do we have? Kaya asked. Conservative estimate, based on the Void Swarm's preparation timeline. 18 months before the first prime consumer fleets arrive in Unity space. Harrison stood, his scarred face reflecting the determination that had carried humanity through numerous near extinctions. 18 months to prepare 12 star systems for a war against opponents that have consumed entire galaxies. It's not much time, but it's what we have. Admiral Commander Vex asked hesitantly, do you believe we can succeed against such opponents? Harrison smiled, and for the first time, it was genuinely warm rather than predatory. Commander, humanity has spent 3 centuries preparing for exactly this scenario. Every weapon we've built, every tactic we've developed, every strategy we've planned has been designed to fight opponents who are bigger, stronger, and more technologically advanced than we are. He gestured toward the ruins of where human engineers were already beginning reconstruction efforts alongside Zephyrian survivors. The Unity taught us something important today. Sometimes, the most dangerous predators in the galaxy are the ones who hunt in packs, who protect each other, and who never give up. But Admiral Kaya interjected, you are only one species, and we are many. Surely our combined knowledge and resources... Double quotes, Administrator, Harrison interrupted gently, you misunderstand. Humanity isn't joining the Unity as one species among many. We're joining as the species that specializes in impossible victories against overwhelming odds, as the human fleet prepared to depart for Earth, carrying with them detailed plans for the galaxy's defense. Admiral Harrison sent one final message to Unity Command. This is Admiral Harrison to all Unity species. Humanity has accepted membership in your alliance, and with it, the responsibility to protect civilizations that have forgotten how to protect themselves. We want to be clear about what this means. His voice carried across dozens of worlds, reaching billions of beings who had lived their entire lives without fear of violence. The galaxy is not a safe place. It never was. You've simply been fortunate enough to live in a small corner of space that hadn't yet attracted the attention of things that consider entire civilizations to be food. That luck has run out. But you are not defenseless. You have something that countless consumed galaxies did not. You have humanity as your allies, and humanity has never learned how to surrender. The message ended with the image of human dreadnoughts, disappearing into hyperspace, carrying with them the hopes of a peaceful civilization and the promise that when the real war began, they would not face it alone. As the last human ship vanished from Unity space, Administrator Kaya looked up at the stars with a mixture of hope and trepidation. The galaxy had changed forever. The age of peace was ending, but perhaps, with humanity's help, the age of extinction could be prevented. In the distance, construction crews were already beginning work on the first human-designed defense platform. Its angular design, a stark reminder that the Unity was no longer alone in the darkness of space, **.